Petty Eddie Podcast. Yeah. Petty Eddie Podcast. Yeah. Yeah. I'm on point like Beckham, a one-handed catch. No one can do this now, I'm better than the rest. I'm Baker Mayfield with the cockiness. I'm related to be the greatest, no way you're stopping this. The first things first, no Chris Carter, the hands of stone. I'm the podcast king on the microphone. The swagger of Randy Moss, style of Randy Orton. Better support this, download the Ward Smith. Of course, it's a legend like Flair or Tully Blanchard, the king. Lights up the camera, stepping up to me like Braun Strowman, thinking wisely. Truth in the humor like Marcellus Wiley. So cocky, so brass, so timeless, grimy. How I can talk and undefine it. Who want war with the best in the field? It's the Petty Eddie Podcast, keeping it real. Let's go. There is only one out here that'll hold it down, say it loud and clear. Who will take the world by storm now? There is only one podcast with the crown, the Petty Eddie Podcast.
What is up, everybody? It's Wednesday. It's the last Wednesday we'll talk in September, which is crazy. 27th. We're already to the 27th. That means we're a few days away from Halloween season coming. Full spooky season. It's already been spooky season, but it's coming soon. Shout out my guy TZ theme song. He was just on AEW's big show last week at Arthur Ashe Stadium and did his rap live, walking his guy at the ring. Shout out to him. And before we go further, obviously Casey's here with me. We're going to talk Ravens. We're going to do all that before any of that continues. Homage.com. Got to check them out. Best clothing company out there right now. Not just saying that because we're a sponsor. I'm saying because it's the truth. They're the most comfortable shirts I've ever worn. There's such a variety. That's the best thing. There's a variety. It's like ice cream. You don't have to like one or the. There's a variety of things. Just within certain teams, and then any team you want, in any sport you want. A lot of movies, a lot of pop culture, WWE, The Office, Ted Lasso, things like that. All your brown stuff go through them. The starter jackets have returned. I don't know if how much are in stock right now. I haven't checked that recently, but definitely get yourself a jacket. I have the orange satin one, and it's fantastic, and I cannot wait to wear it here in a couple weeks when it gets a little bit cooler out. I think Casey has some homage gear, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Casey?
No, actually, I have not yet. I have not got on the train yet.
That's correct.
I'm waiting something now. So, I'm
got to our network. That's correct. I forgot.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
It seems forever, but anyway, Casey hears us talk about homage all the time, and he's seen it throughout our shows and stuff. When he's been on homage.com, check them out at homage on Twitter. It's all caps. Make sure to check them out. Everything that you can think of. They have different mashups and different things. They just came out with a Beavis and Butthead mashup for the NFL teams, and it's fantastic. Guy Fieri, if you're into him, Flavortown, he has each team's signature dish. From where they're located. That's pretty cool if you're into that. I showed those to my dad, and what he doesn't know is he's getting those for Christmas. So when you hear this, Dad, Merry Christmas. But yeah, homage.com, make sure to check them out. Great sponsorship we have with them, and I'm excited to see where we continue to go. Obviously, my man Casey Kinnaman here with me. He's obviously, like I just said, on the network with us and Dog Pound Daily. Casey, welcome back, and thanks for coming on.
What is up, Eddie? Good to be on, man. Good to be on.
It is hump day, and it definitely felt like one. Like we're trying to get up over that. Now we're on the downward slope.
Yep.
At least tomorrow we have football to look forward to. It's not the Browns, but it's football. I will watch it. I'm not NFL football. I'll watch whenever. A lot of good things coming in this week. A lot of good vibes. We've been doing a lot of speaking and writing, the two of us this week, which is great. You've been on a few shows. You've wrote a few articles. I've wrote a few articles. Dog Pound Daily. Make sure to check that out. And the one article we'll talk about in a little bit, you wrote about Jim Schwartz today. I'm excited to talk about that because I was excited to read it, and then now we can talk about it, to other people. So we had come off a huge win. Obviously, we all saw it was good, but what are some things that you took away that maybe not everyone's talking about?
Well, for me, it's what this defense is doing. But the fact that the Browns are like 51-6 at home games, and they're still losing the turnover battle. They're losing the turnover battle week in, week out, and they're still putting it on teams. Like, it's going to be scary to think what could actually happen because they've been so close on defense to getting these turnovers. Eventually, man, they're going to flip that switch and they're going to turn that faucet on, and it's just going to waterfall. You know what I mean? And that's when it's really going to be scary because they're doing all this damage without really getting turnovers. And I just think they're real close to it.
Yeah, I did not realize that. I did not even think that was not one thought process in my mind from the time that game ended on Sunday to all the writing I've done this week. Not one time did that cross my mind. So that's brilliant right there. And that's crazy too, because they were talking about in the group chat about the fantasy team. Like, if you have the Browns defense on fantasy, what's a good sort. It depends on how your league's set up, obviously. But they don't have the turnovers. It's just like, I didn't think of that. That went completely over my head. I looked at that and I was like, okay. And then didn't think anything of it. Now you bring that up. They have not won that yet. And nope. I swear every week, and it's probably true for every team, but Nathan Zegura, every time I listen to him pregame, one of his keys to the game, win the turnover battle and you win the game. And it's crazy because they have yet to do that. That's insane.
Yeah, it's the biggest indicator of wins and losses is that specific stat coming up on the plus side, and they've been in the negative every week. I think they're -5 right now in the season. I mean, that's week 2. That really went a long way towards that. They turned it over 4 times. They end up, but yeah, they haven't won one yet. So eventually that's going to turn for them. And when they do, that's going to be scary. Because like I said, they've outscored opponents 51-6 at home and lost a turnover battle both times. Whew. I'm really hoping they get off the schneid on that this week and really put it on the Ravens.
Yes, I would love to see. It doesn't have to be both, one or the other. I'd love to see a pick six or a strip sack that gives us, if not like a scoring touchdown right then, we score almost immediately on offense right after that.
Well, if you remember that strip that Miles had this week on Ryan Tannehill, he stripped it out, and I mean it skipped right in front of JOK as he was running the other way. If that's just a split second difference, he's in the house. You know what I mean? And it's like that's how close they've been a few times now. Delpit, he got that one interception and kind of just fell. You know what I mean? Like he lost his footing because he was on the way to a house call himself. So I would love to see one of these corners get off. I'd love to see Emerson jump a route or Ward, jump a route and just take it to the house. I think that would be a heck of a way to kick off that game.
That would be fantastic. And on that strip that Miles had, watching it live, I'm just sitting there like, jump on the ball. It's right in front of you. Jump on that. Like, it's right there. And then they're just like, so I initially thought they probably thought it was a pass.
They could have, yeah.
The arm coming
very
forward.
Easily.
That was after the fact, but it didn't matter. It didn't hurt them. That was one of the best defensive performances you'll ever see in an NFL game, especially in modern day NFL, where everything's geared towards the offenses to score points. That's one of the best you'll ever see. 94 yards of total offense. That's insane. Like, if you have told me the week before, the Browns are going to bounce back from that awful loss against Pittsburgh, and they're going to allow the Titans to have just 94 yards total, I would have been like, yeah, okay. I was like, they'll be 150, 200. It'll be somewhere there.
It's 2023.
All right.
You can't hold a team to under 100 yards. That's ridiculous. That's where they're at, man. And what's crazy to me is it's a lot of the same cast of characters. They did retool the defensive line, but a lot of these guys have been here, and they just haven't. It just goes to show what happens when you have a defensive coordinator that like accentuates people to their strengths. So you're seeing these corners play press man. They've actually weaponized Grant Delpit. He is like, his usage has been just elite. He's playing a little bit of single high, but it's mostly in the box stuff, overhang linebacker, slot, keeping him in his wheelhouse. And you can see what a difference it's making by putting these players in the best position to succeed.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Grant Delpit because I'm going to say something that's not going to resonate well with the fans. But so far, he is the defensive player of the year of this team. It's not Myles Garrett. I know Myles Garrett has the 4.5 sacks, but it's Grant Delpit for me right now. And that doesn't mean that Myles is, bad by any means. Obviously, he's not. And what he's done is fantastic. And we'll get to his play in a minute. But Grant Delpit has been playing like a man possessed. He leads the team in tackles, both combined and solo. He has 13 solo tackles. He is just all, and like you said, that's his wheelhouse, being up in the box. And you sort of see the glimpses of his college days and why the Browns drafted him. And then we didn't get to see that a whole lot last year. And now with Jim Schwartz here, and I'm glad that you've been talking about him all week as well. That just unlocked a whole different player than what the NFL is used to seeing from Grant Delpit, what the Browns are used to seeing from him. And boom, that's That's going to be huge. It's been huge so far. I think it's huge this week too.
Yeah, you would see glimpses of that player, but then it would never stack. It wouldn't be week in, week out. It's been consistent this whole season so far. Here's one thing I want to put in your ear though. With the bye coming up, if Grant Delpit goes out and has a similar game that he's, just what he's been doing, I wouldn't be that surprised if they extend him during the bye. He's been a player. He's in the final year of his deal. A lot of times teams try to lock up guys during the bye week if they got something going. They squirreled away a lot of money. They need a ton for rollover, obviously, but they did squirrel off enough that they can be fluid. They can kind of make some moves. I wouldn't be shocked if they sign Grant Delpit to an extension, during the bye.
See, I didn't think of the extension during the bye, but I did think earlier he's playing himself out of Cleveland unless they want to pony
do
up
it now. Yeah,
do it now. And then I hate when we as fans use the term hometown discount. Give every player every penny.
Get their bag, man. Their playing career is so damn short.
If that means that the Browns have to pony up more money now, I'm good with that. I don't care. It's not my money. I don't care. Spend it. Give all these players all the money. I wish that there was no cap. That'd be awesome. But there's a cap. But like you said, the rollover money. And then when you extend him, next year's hit for him is not going to be huge. It's going to carry on down the road.
Yep.
Well, if that's I would do that in a heartbeat. I didn't think of that. I would do that in a heartbeat because that to me is the defensive MVP for this team so far. And I know that that's not going to sit well with some because Miles is playing out of his mind too.
But that's the expectation for Miles. This feels new and fresh. We know what Miles does this week in, week out, dominates. He had 3.5 sacks this past week, but he had a higher pass rush win rate the week before when he got 0 sacks. People focus too much on the sacks. Miles dominates games. He makes offensive changes. Their offensive coordinators waste a lot of time during the week writing 95's name on a whiteboard and circling it and scheming up ways and devoting everything to him. But yeah, Miles, he's excellent.
They had two Titans follow him as he was running in motion on defense.
He was playing offense. Yeah, I've never seen that before ever. He was playing offense on defense, going in motion. Oh man, you seen Jim Schwartz laugh on the sidelines?
So at first I saw him over. I was like, okay, that's something. They're going to move him around pre-snap. Smart, because on the offensive side, a lot of pre-snap motion is good for a lot of offenses, right? I was like, okay. Then they follow him. I was like, that's weird. And then he does it back, and then they come back, and then the delay of game happens, and I was like, wow, he really doesn't care about these other offensive linemen around the league because he's just been doing what he wants because of his new cast of characters.
Yep.
So that's the main focus of the show tonight. We'll touch on the offense, obviously, but the defense of the marriage of Jim Schwartz and the new players that came in free agency and via trade, and then the guys that they've already had here is a perfect marriage so far. And we've seen that they are the best defense in the NFL. And if they're not the best defense, they are in that discussion of one of the 2 best in the league. I would probably give it to them. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm a Browns fan. But they have played lights out from the get-go, and this is what everyone pictured. When Jim Schwartz was hired, everyone's like, all right, yeah, we're locked in for defense this year. And then all the acquisition. And so far, they're paying dividends. And the stats might not, scream that, but it's not a box score league. It's down in pressures count, which you don't see pressures in a box score. You go to ESPN.com right now, and you click on the game from this past week, you're not going to see the pressures. You're just going to see the box score of the highlights. But this Jim Schwartz defense is something else that we haven't seen in Cleveland. I think I said last week on the pre-show, it is the best defense we've seen in Cleveland since they've come back to the league in '99. And that's crazy to say. I thought it was crazy after 2 weeks. Now after another week, I'm just like, nope, this is it.
Yeah, this is where we are right now, man. It's special. If you do look at the metrics, you know what I mean? Just like they're the number 1 scoring defense. They've allowed the fewest yards per carry. They have the highest pressure rate. They have the most quarterback hits. Now, that's not the most sacks, but that affects a game, man. It's beautiful. And just to watch these guys have fun, dude. They're taking on the identity of their defensive coordinator. They're out there celebrating. They're flying around. They're playing for each other. They're all the way bought in, man. And I know this is a weird thing I just thought about. I don't know if those Steeler defenses under Dick LeBeau, sometimes they would come out of the huddle and they wouldn't line up. They would just be like in an amoeba.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And then kind of right before the snap, they would get into position. Right. I wouldn't mind a variation of that with Miles.
Oh,
Just so guys can't really get a bead, because if teams are really dedicating that much, allocating that many resources to blocking Miles, keep him guessing, man. Like, no, obviously not every play, but every now and again, I think it'd be fun. Just how we saw him go in motion and how the Titans had to burn a timeout. They had no choice.
yeah.
You know what I mean? If not, he'll just wreck your game.
And he did wreck their game plan at the end of the first half. They didn't have a timeout, and then he sacks them. They even said can't take a sack, and as soon as that got out of their lips, here's Myles Garrett already in the backfield. Boom, and it was like that, and that's what you love to see. And the acquisition of all these different players that are along the line with him now. A lot of people said that this was their best lineman that he's had with him since he's been in the league. And that's crazy to think, 'cause he's been in the league 7 years now, but it's really true, and it's paying dividends. And now in this Jim Schwartz defense, he can put Myles in various different spots. It doesn't have to just be at the edge anymore. And we saw a tiny bit last year when he lined up, as a linebacker a couple times, most notably against the Commanders. But he did it again a couple weeks ago. He was doing basketball dribbles through his legs. Like I love that type of thing. That's like that showmanship I love. Like, yeah, I'm about to just show you what I'm about to do it, and then you're not going to be able to do anything to me. So his play has also been unlocked, by Jim Schwartz. And the fact that they can put him and Zadarius Smith together beside each other, that's scary for any quarterback. And hopefully it's scary for Lamar Jackson, who has been a thorn in the Browns side since he's been here. Not like the most outrageous stat line that you'd ever see, but modest enough and oftentimes good enough to win. He's 6-3 against them. So you wrote about today, can Jim Schwartz unlock the code of Lamar Jackson? So can't you go ahead and don't give away obviously the whole article, but
yeah. Well, here's the thing: is I think the book's out on how you're supposed to defend Lamar Jackson, but having a theory and then actually like pulling it off is two separate things. If you want to make Lamar Jackson throw outside the numbers, you want to try to hold the middle of the field and keep the tight ends at bay because that's where he does his damage. But then he's a unicorn, man. Like I think he's the most dangerous running quarterback we've ever seen.
Uh-huh.
And I think like if him and Mike Vick would have raced prime to prime, Mike Vick probably wins the race. But I think if Lamar Jackson has a football in his hands, you're not tackling him. It's special. It's different. So you also, besides patrolling, taking away the middle of the field, you have to like guard the exit lanes for him to rush. So you want to put a spy there. Well, you can put a spy on Lamar Jackson, but do you have a guy that can actually tackle him in the open field? Not many teams do. I think the Browns do. I think the Browns have two players that I would key in that I think can really. I mean, Lamar's going to get his, dude. He's a freak athlete, but you have to limit that because that's where he really breaks your back. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Grant Delpit. I think both you kind of switch those guys on and off and let them be the spy for Lamar and try to catch him off guard. So I think Schwartz has the pieces in place to pull this off. I don't think I'm not really breaking ground by saying what you need to do, but it's actually pulling it off that's the issue. Schwartz has faced Lamar one time back in 2020. They got he was the Eagles DC and they got beat 30-28, but that score is super misleading. The Eagles had to score 22 in the fourth just to make it a game. Like the Ravens were doing their thing. Like you said, it's never an outrageous stat line. Lamar had like 186 through the air, one touchdown, but he had 108 on the ground and one touchdown. And that one touchdown was a backbreaker right up the middle. You know what I mean? So he's got to look at him before, and now you're going to face him twice a year. So I hope that I don't really have to hope. Schwartz is going to have something up his sleeve. He's going to be aggressive because that's who he is by nature. But I expect to see a few wrinkles this week for this Browns defense.
I'm glad that you mentioned JOK and Newsome because in whatever, I think it's tomorrow that comes out, the three storylines for the game, big storylines for the game for Dog Pound Daily is the one is, this matchup, the new defense versus a familiar foe. And that's Lamar Jackson. And I think you said it right. I have in there back-to-back, I talk about Delpit and I talk about JOK. And then it's not saying exactly what you said, but like sort of summing that up. Like they have the speed and athleticism. That's why the Browns drafted JOK at 52. Everyone else was scared of the heart issue. It ended up not being anything. Luckily, they got him for that reason. And now with Grant Delpit, like this evolution of him under Jim Schwartz, he has that speed and athleticism too to keep up with Lamar and bring Lamar down an open field. So I'm so excited you said that. That's been, because I was thinking of that earlier. And then so I wrote this last night, and I read your piece that comes out today that's saying that, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is gonna be great. Like everything's gonna be great tomorrow for this show. And so far so good. I just can't get over how good this defense is playing. It blows my mind that we have a top defense in the NFL, where Micah Parsons even said that the Browns are the third best team in the AFC mainly because of the defense and because Deshaun's starting to slowly get there. And if Micah Parsons says that, I'm going to listen.
Yeah, I saw that, man. It's especially if you're a defensive player and you see what's happening on the field, it's going to be impossible not to give that defense flowers. I mean, what they're doing right now is historic. It's not just like, oh, they're good for this year. They're doing things that people haven't done in 40 years.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's literally happening right now. And like you said, in this day and age, in 2023, to be a defense of that caliber doing those kind of things, it's crazy, man. It's the best case scenario. And it's almost ridiculous for us as fans to expect them to keep up this level of play. Mm-hmm. But they haven't shown us anything that they, to make us think they can't keep up this level of play. So I know teams are eventually going to score in the red zone, and there's going to be teams that pop a couple. But I just think on average, man, teams are not going to be able to go 75-yard drives on this team. Mm-hmm. You might hit a big play every now and again. I think that's really it. And you got to pray that the Browns turn it over and you get a short field. Because if you just get the ball in the 25 and you got to go all 75, that's tough sledding against this D.
Yeah, it sure is. And that, even if they do get it, they get the Browns to turn it over in their own zone, that's not assuring you anything at this moment in time. Like we saw with Tennessee, they came up with 3 points. And they were at the 17, I believe it was, when Elijah Moore fumbled.
And they had 3 plays and they went negative on all 3.
Which, that is the craziest stat, and I just wrote about this the other day. Another article I wrote for this week was they are averaging minus 36 yards before contact. That's crazy. The league average is 94.2 or something.
Yes.
That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like, Randy posted it to us in the Slack channel for Dog Pound Daily, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that. I like stats. So I was like, I'll get that after work. Did it. And even seeing that and thinking about it throughout the day and then reading all this stuff on it, and I'm just like, wow, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Negative 36 yards before contact.
It's got to be crazier for Browns fans because we saw what this run defense wasn't last year. And good. It was not good. And they went from not being good to elite. Bang. You signed the right defensive tackles. You got the right guy in place. And all of a sudden, this is an elite run defense.
And that's crazy. So I was just thinking as we were talking about this, teams aren't usually fortunate enough to have a great secondary and a great pass rush. And the Browns seemingly have both right now. Every piece is fitting in this Jim Schwartz defensive puzzle the way he needs it to, and it's so far so good. And the only big play was the Pickett play to Pickens. Was it Pickens?
Yep.
Yeah. That's the only time that there was any chink in the armor, so to speak. And that, like you said, they're not going 75 yards. That's for sure. So
nope. Not on the drive. You might get lucky, but
you might hit that big play.
Yeah, they've had 39 drives and they've given up 1 touchdown on 39 drives.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's absurd.
And then what is it, 21 first downs or something?
Yeah, it's low. It's low. They've also forced the most 4th downs. I think by every metric you could judge, man, they're the tip of the spear right now.
See, I was going to mention that in this show. I was trying to work it into there, but you did it because that's what you put in the article, and I love that. I love it. When I read that, I was like, yeah, I like that because you don't see that. That's a different thing than you normally see. No one says tip of the spear. That's fantastic because the spear is what ultimately gets you, the dinner.
Yep, you got it. Hunting.
I love that.
This team is hunting, that's for sure.
So obviously it's keying on Lamar. A lot of times the Ravens have a good run game, but they're, getting decimated at the running back position in all this. So do you see anyone other than Lamar in the backfield causing any sort of issues for the Browns?
Well, Gus Edwards did practice today, and he is out of concussion protocol. So he's got to be the lead. They brought Melvin Gordon up. I don't know what that looks like in 2023. But because Lamar is what he is with his legs, he opens things up for other guys. Depends on how they run it. To me, I didn't get the hiring of Todd Monken as the offensive coordinator. I know a lot of people were high on it, but it's, for me, Lamar is so different, man. I think you lean into what he is and don't try to make him what he isn't. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean you keep Greg Roman forever.
Right.
He did, but a variation of that, because Monken's actually encouraging him to spread it out more and throw towards the boundaries. And I mean, I'm not saying he'll get better over time, but like, we're at year 6 for him. Like, I wouldn't try to change him. I would lean into it and ride it for as long as you can. But yeah, I think Gus Edwards. I assume if they said he's cleared concussion protocol and he was a full go today with no setbacks, I think he'll be the lead carrier for him on Sunday.
So then we switch to Lamar's weapons. Throwing to the outside. Who's he going to throw to? And he hasn't really. The offense hasn't done anything crazy. Like the Browns haven't really either. And we'll touch on the offense, but the Ravens' offense is not as like potent as you would think it'd be with Lamar Jackson at your quarterback. But like you said, a new offensive coordinator, that's going to take time to gel. It's going to take upwards of a month, even with a full camp, doesn't matter. It's going to take that real game experience. And I think that's what the Browns can like hang their hat on a little bit too, is like, okay, like they're not that good. If we just show that we are who we've been, it'll be fine. But Mark Andrews, obviously the biggest target. But I think that our linebacker play can match him a little bit and limit him and his get down the field, because the defensive line is playing so well that the linebackers have also played well, because they have their own responsibility they can focus on. They don't have to cover for the defensive line screwing up and letting guys gash them for 6-7 yards at a time.
That's been the godsend of these defensive tackles, because we really didn't know how good the linebackers were, because you couldn't really evaluate them because they were covered up. You know what I mean? They had defensive tackles in their lap. How are they going to do their job? You're seeing it if you keep JOK clean. He's a tackle machine, man. He makes plays. A-Walk's super solid. Talk and his role was amazing. And there's some guys they haven't brought up yet that we haven't seen what they're going to do in this defense. But they haven't had to. That's the beautiful part of it. But, yeah, that's it, man. Mark Andrews is the engine as far as the receivers go. I have been impressed by Zay Flowers. I will say that. But both Rashad Bateman and OBJ didn't practice today with injuries. If you look at the injury report that came out today, which is why I love Wednesdays, because it's like, we're hump day, we're over the hump, we're getting closer to the game. It's when the injury reports come out, because it's like, we're really into this game week now.
Yep.
The lists were similar size for the Ravens and the Browns, except the Browns were like not injury related, just giving them rest.
Right.
Baltimore's injured, man. They got injuries up and down. OBJ, Rashad neither practice. So, yeah, Zay Flowers and Andrews are the two you really have to key in on in the pass game.
And I think if you take them away, then you're going to have to force Lamar to run, and that might play right into Jim Schwartz's plan. Like, we'll see. Like you said, he'll have something up his sleeve for Lamar, and then we have the personnel. Like, before, we always thought we had the personnel. Like, we thought these linebackers we have were, solid. Nothing great, nothing spectacular, but they couldn't do their job to the fullest effect. Now they're open, we can see that, and it's not like they were bad by any means. And they were hurt. Every one of them got hurt last year.
Everyone.
Every running back or linebacker that played the position in Cleveland last year, you ended up injured somehow. But this year they can play more freely. So I think that, is big for this. Is there anything else on the defense that we need to talk about before moving on to anything else?
I mean, we could talk defense for hours, but yeah, I think we covered everything. We really didn't really get into like the other safeties, McLeod and Thornhill, but
yeah, I see. It's not that I forgot about them. It's just that
there's so much.
There's a smorgasbord of everything that.
Yeah.
Everything
well, look,
fans.
As Browns fans, we've went so long with the cupboards being bare. Now it's like we're an overabundance of stuff. Like we're spoiled in a way. It's
right,
but it's just this accumulation of talent and some of it came through the draft and some of it's free agents. But that's the way I like how I like Barry, the way he operates, man. It's not just one avenue or the other. It's a conglomeration: trades, free agency, draft, and then hiring the right coach to make it all marry together. It's like there's no other way to say it other than it's special. But yeah, Thornhill and McLeod are both massive signings for that safety room. and it frees up Delpit to do the other things.
Right.
Because he's not pigeonholed into having to be something. He can be whatever they need him to be for that week. Weapon X. You know what I mean? That's who he is for this defense.
I think too with the defense, they've done a good job with their substitutions and their packages they bring in. I think that's been tremendous so far because you get guys a quick breather, but you're not missing anything really. It's like I know it's a next man up mentality, but no one's hurt. They're just getting a breather for a minute, getting a drink of water. Someone else steps in, they make a play, and it's been great to see. It's just been contagious. It's way different than the past few years we've seen under Joe Woods. Joe Woods did not have the locker room. Whether they didn't, no. I don't want to say they didn't respect him because I wasn't there, but they clearly did not get along with him. See eye to eye with what he wanted, and
the buy-in wasn't there.
Yeah, the buy-in wasn't there, and once you don't have that, then it doesn't matter who you have on defense or offense, whatever the position is, it doesn't matter. It's just not going to work, and we're going to see that in New York with the Jets because that's a train wreck of a situation. I had to throw that in there because it's funny to me.
Well, I do want to point out something you just said that I mean. Schwartz is still getting a feel for this personnel and these different packages. How scary is that? You know what I mean?
Right.
He's playing around with it, and I think one big addition is Alex Wright, because I was under the assumption he was going to be IR'd. We weren't even going to see him until week 5. He made his return. He really made his presence felt on Sunday as that guy who can set the edge and knife inside on the run game, giving a breather to people like Miles and Za'Darius and allowing Schwartz to play with different rotations. And it's just another toy for him to play with at edge, which, you know what I mean? It's fascinating for me to watch because Jim Schwartz has been a DC for a long time, man. And I think this is his most talented group.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely. I mean, you can argue a couple others that he's had previously. You can argue that, but they didn't start off a season like this.
No.
Like no one has really. So that is very encouraging. And what I think also it does, it gives Stefanski a little bit more of a boost confidence-wise. So he's still going to do his cute play calling, and sometimes we're not going to like it no matter what. If it executes, obviously everyone's going to love it. But there's going to be times like, oh, what are we lining up in this for? But, we've seen the offense sputter, and it was sputter started. And it was sort of like, they were running in the mud. And they couldn't get out. And then they finally have a good game last week. There was not really anything bad to say about the offense. Deshaun looked a hell of a lot better. That was his best game as a starter since he came to Cleveland. It wasn't like I'm going to serve for 300 yards, but it wasn't like a traditional Deshaun Watson takeover game. He was just taking what the defense gave him, and Stefanski was putting him in position to get in rhythm. Those short passes, those are going to pay dividends because then it opens up the field more. But that gets him into a rhythm early. And he only had 6 incompletions on the day and made plays with his legs to get out of pressure. The Titans brought it. Like, the game is lopsided, but the Titans' defensive line deserves a hell of a lot of credit because they played one hell of a game. Yeah. And unfortunately, the Browns' defense was way better to go against their offense. But Deshaun looked comfortable. He looked decisive when he was throwing it. He didn't look like he was aiming it. I think a lot of us said he was aiming last week, it looked like, against Pittsburgh. Yeah. He just – boom, let it go. And then he should have had another touchdown to Amari Cooper, but the refs are somehow blind, and that makes no sense. But that's a good sign. So I think that comes from Stefanski, like, all right, we're still going with you. Like, you obviously have to be the guy. Let's do things a little differently. We don't have Chubb right now, which obviously is a major factor to, like, in a harmful way to the Browns. But they overcame that, and that's how you can do it. You don't have to run the ball that many times to get that yardage that you would on the run.
Yeah, and I think the key to that is Elijah Moore being the extension to the run game by getting him the ball quick and open in space. I think that was the move, and you saw it, man. Like, I know he had a fumble, but dude was targeted 9 times and called all 9. I mean, it was just that's the extension of the run game without Chubb, because you're not going to there's no replacing Nick Chubb at running back. That's not an option.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Unless you got a time machine and want to go get Bo Jackson or Jim Brown, it ain't happening. Like, Nick Chubb is one of those rare dudes. But the quick game, and I think that's really the difference is you equated it. It looked like he was aiming, but like if you're playing basketball and you're in a slump, man, you need to see the ball go in the hole a few times. After that, you stop trying to shoot and you just shoot. That's what he was able to do. He wasn't trying to like aim it. He was just making the pass. And it was the quick game, and then it was the intermediate, and before you knew it, every blade of grass was open to him.
Yep.
And he was hitting boundary shots to DPJ, back shoulder. Him and Cooper do have a hell of a connection already. Like you can see it. And Coop, man, dude, someone talk about him. He drew like 2 PIs on top of everything else he did and getting robbed. And I stand on it. That side judge had to have the under. How the hell did you call him out, man? That is. Me and Jacob were watching that doing the Pro Sports Fans live cast, and how? You're standing, you have one job, dude, and you're standing right there looking at it, still called him out. That would have been another tutter. So it was a heck of a day, man. And man, Deshaun needed that. We needed that as well. But Deshaun, I said this earlier on Sports for CLE, he could not have a repeat performance of what happened Monday night in front of those home fans. That would have went bad quick. So the fact that he was able to get in a good rhythm and the game started to come to him, and he was, that needed to happen. So my thing now is that can't be a standalone. That can't be something that he has a bad game this week. We'll be like, oh, but week 3 he did this. No, that's the bar, man. You got to meet the bar. And I'm not a big numbers guy. Like he didn't have to throw for 275 and 3 touchdowns. You need to be efficient, man. You need to be efficient. You need to lead this offense. Whatever that looks like on whatever that week is, I'm cool with. But we saw it, though. We saw him take that first step. Now, that would have been an average game for him in Houston. But that was his best game in a Browns uniform. So that's who we need him to be going forward.
See, I'm sort of tired of hearing about the Houston talk. I know that's what we have to compare it to.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of tired of hearing that because that's not who we have right now. Can he get back to a similar point or maybe even better? Absolutely. We all think he can. All hope he can, obviously. We're invested in this just like the Browns. It's not our money, but we're invested in it as fans, as writers, as podcasters, as content creators, whatever you want to call it. We're in it. We're in it for the long haul, too. So we need to stop saying, because he had 282 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then the biggest stat was no turnovers. Yeah. He tried coughing it up. He threw it backwards.
He did. We shouldn't talk about that. Let pretend that didn't happen.
I do want to talk about that because at the time I was just like, all right, he's down. Okay, sack. Damn it. Okay, the ball's out. What's he doing? Like, what is that? I thought maybe he saw. Like, I'm sure he saw Elijah Moore. He couldn't get it to him because he couldn't throw. He just had his arm to do.
Yeah.
But I was just like, okay, live to fight another day. But it ended up not hurting them. Yeah. Which is insane.
Yeah, and Elijah dove on it, kind of making up for the one that he coughed up earlier, kind of. But, yeah, that was a very low football IQ moment. But luckily it was an isolated moment, and it didn't carry over to any other parts of the game, and he didn't put the ball in danger the rest of the game. So let's just move past it. But you can't do that. You can't do that, man. That was bad.
Absolutely not. And as are you a Ted Lasso guy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so he was a goldfish. So
be a goldfish, brother.
And that's what he was, and you wouldn't even if that wasn't such a weird play that he committed and just threw it backward. You rarely ever see that unless it's like a lateral, And he just did that because he was getting sacked, and I was just like, okay, that's not outside of it being that egregious. I wouldn't even remember that he fumbled the ball. So I was going through and getting stats and stuff for the different articles this week, and it said fumble, and I was like, fumble? I was like, Lamar didn't fumble. And I thought about it, I was like, oh, that's a fumble when he threw it backward. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, he can't do it.
Can't keep doing that. But as you said, him and Amari Cooper have had tremendous chemistry thus far. Over the past 2 games, it's like, 14 for 206? Does that sound right?
I'm not sure, but that sounds about right. It sounds
7
amazing.
For 90 and 7 for 116. Yeah, 14
and
for
it should have been 140-something.
Correct. I still can't get over it. And I don't care if the refs apologize to him after the game. You blew it. I wouldn't even go anywhere near him. I wouldn't even apologize about it. I'd just be like, I effed up. I fucked up. My bad, dude. Sorry. I said I wouldn't say sorry. I guess I would, but I wouldn't stick around long because I'm sure Amari would just like, dude, what the hell? Like,
his post-game interview was funny about it, man.
This much room.
Yeah, it wasn't close. It wasn't even close.
And that's the type of thing that in the past would have killed the Browns game in there, and they would have played down to who they were playing, and it would have just been awful, absolutely awful. But we were talking about the running game. Deshaun didn't do much in the running game. Didn't have to. He was getting it out quickly. Jerome Ford didn't do a lot in the running game, but he played a vital role in a lot of different parts. He had 51 total yards rushing and receiving. I think it was 18 on the ground, 33 in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had a touchdown in each department. Receiving touchdown and his first career rushing touchdown. So that's as good of a replacement game for Nick Chubb in your first NFL start as you can get. You don't have to have I'm glad you said you're not a numbers guy. So I am, and I'm not a numbers guy. So you can have a Nick Chubb replacement game by scoring 2 touchdowns, getting 50 yards of total offense, and being key in some pass blocking times. He stepped up and handled that. That's a hard ask to follow. Hey, go fill in for one of the greats. And he did exactly what was needed of him.
Well, you said it earlier, and I don't think it gets talked about enough, man. Tennessee probably has the most underrated defensive line in the league. They don't have a lot of stars, so you don't know them, but Danico Autry's a dude. Simmons is a dude. Arden Key, Harold Landry. They got guys, man. Tart in the middle. And Tennessee's a top 5 run defense.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not really mad that they weren't able to rack up yards. Of course, I think Ford ended up averaging like 1.8. Yes, that needs to be better.
Uh-huh.
He scored twice, man. I can't be mad at him. And I saw a little bit out of Kareem Hunt that left me encouraged, man, in his first action back.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like he brings juice to the team. Like the team, he definitely brings a good energy that gets people up. I do think that he benefits more from this style of offense than he would have last year's,
Right.
He operates better out of the gun and can do some inside zone stuff. He's not a good outside zone runner. He's a pin and pull guy, but he can run inside zone. And you saw when the game was well in hand, they gave him a full series where they brought him out and he was in shotgun. And he had a couple nice runs, man. I'm very encouraged to see what he's going to be able to do because I think you just uptick him a little each week to see what he can handle.
See, I'm glad you brought up Hunt because at first when the Browns, were linked to him and about, they brought him for a visit, I was very I love Kareem Hunt, and I was very on it because I know what he was last year, and I saw that, and I understand that's why the Browns, decided not to bring him back. But then, he's trying to find a team, and he had different visits with different guys or different teams, and didn't work out. And then here he is just waiting. He wants to come back to Cleveland, but there's really no spot for him. And then Chubb goes down. Well, who better to replace him than one of his best friends? One of the only guys that can get Nick Chubb to smile on a football field.
Yep.
And okay, so I was like, okay, you know what? We'll see what it is. It doesn't have to be anything. It might not be something. It might be we might get flashes of the old Kareem later in the season. Which if we get that later in the season, that'll be even better for this team. And I think he does do a good job, protecting Deshaun Watson in the shotgun if he needs to. And there was a play. Was it? I forget how exactly went. He did like his little jump, like power jump type thing into someone. And I was like, okay, that's Kareem Hunt that we're used to seeing. It didn't go for a lot. Maybe it went for a yard, if that, maybe 2 at the most. But that was a little glimpse of Kareem Hunt. And I was like, okay, now I see why this makes sense, fully now. Let's rock with it. I think the running game will be fine. But, yeah, Tennessee's defensive line is no joke. That was one of my biggest worries going into last week because I didn't know how the offensive line would protect Lamar. And they did, the offensive line didn't play great, but they didn't play horrible either. And that's going to be key moving forward. And we're going to transition to them now because the running game is obviously huge. They do great in the run blocking game, but against Tennessee front like that, I don't care what offensive line it is. You're not doing anything. Doing much, I should say. They did rush for 78 yards total, but you're not doing much against that. But the offensive line of the Browns is where it's going to be the bread and butter, especially for Deshaun Watson. And if he's not upright, then you can't do anything.
Yeah, and it's about limiting pressure up the middle. That fast, quick pressure. When people, that's when he seems to kind of, because he's always been able to operate in that chaos in the past, but that's not exactly been who he has been since he's been here. And it's that quick pressure that flashes up the middle that kind of gets him. He's really good at evading pressure from the edge because he likes to step up and then find lanes to rush out of and extend plays. But I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised that Wyatt Teller held up as well as he did. He lost a couple reps, but like Tennessee's no joke, man. DeJuan Jones, props, kid. I mean, we're 2 games in, and I'm pretty impressed where he's at already. He has things he needs to clean up, but we're talking about a 4th round rookie. You know what I mean? But the dude is a house.
Mm-hmm.
He is a literal house.
Massive.
Yeah. You can't. I actually saw Orlando Pace once in person. I was at Ohio State's football camp, and we were practicing in the Woody in the indoor. and he came in the building, and he was the side. He walked in the door, and he was the door.
Oh my!
You know what I mean? He was and just as big as you can imagine. And Dewan's bigger than him. Like, and
wow.
Orlando is a unit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Dewan Jones is massive. Man, shout out to Brian Baldinger. Baldy, every week we get to see how Dewan's progressing because he'll single him out and do a video clip of him, and it's fun to watch him come along. His first game, you're up against T.J. Watt. That's the toughest draws you're going to get, man.
Uh-huh.
You know, and Harold Landry's a competent pass rusher. He got
Correct.
nowhere. He got stonewalled. So I'm super impressed by where Dewan is. Can't wait to see how he progresses. I did the stock up report for DPD.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have anything negative to say about anyone. Like I didn't have anyone stock down.
Okay.
And you could be like, Jed got beat on a couple reps.
Hey,
Man,
yeah.
it was his best game. It was his best game of the season. I can't be more down on him now after that game than I was going in.
Right.
Like he showed me stuff.
I'm glad you said him because I was about to ask you. You know, there was some hoopla on him because there was one play that just he looked bad, and you have that. Even the best players in the NFL and any sport look bad at times. It's just what happens. That's the nature of it. And everyone ripped him for that. I don't remember hearing his name the rest of the way.
No. I think it's his body language really that really gets him in trouble. Because like you said, people get beat all the time. It's his body language when he's beat that people just are drawn to that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he could change that. He that's up to him.
Right.
But that does get him a lot more heat than it would because guys get beat, man. It's about do you look like you're trying to recover or it's just it's the way he goes about it. But yeah, man, Arden Key really didn't do shit. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Like he locked that down and he took some shots from Simmons. You watch that all 22. They were running stunt to where Simmons would line up in the three technique and just he'd engage and then slam into Wills. And then Key would come knifing in. It was just like a pick play. Mm-hmm. He took some shots from Simmons, man, and he held up, man. Like I said, he had a couple plays, but that was his best game of the season. So I'm even impressed with him. Joel's Joel.
Yeah,
that dude gets after it, man. And he'll lose a rep every now and again, but it's rare. It's super rare.
And then he sort of makes up for it, the next one or two after that.
He's like an angry buffalo out there, dude.
Yeah, that's a perfect thing. An angry buffalo.
He is.
But I'm glad you said that about Jed because last week I said I couldn't defend him on the pregame show we did. I could not defend him. I was just like, I can't do it anymore. Like I've tried. I wanted to, and MC Lawrence and shout out to everyone who's been commenting all night. I couldn't get all of them. Obviously, Casey and I engaged. MC Lawrence, you're here every week on every one of our shows.
He's the man. MC's the man.
Drew and Brick City, you're here too. Shout out to you. You're always supporting us. I love that. Jed isn't great, but he's not as horrible as people say. That's usually the mindset I have of it. But lately, I couldn't be in that mindset. After that Pittsburgh game, that soured me. I was just like, okay, but it's only week 2. That's it. You can overreact a little bit. I'm trying not to overreact. I'm just trying to react to what happened. And that's been better so far for my fandom this year. And the Browns have won 2 of 3 games to start. So that helps. But I'm so happy that was a step in the right direction for him. Maybe it's hope, but I still think he can be the guy there for the next decade plus. But he obviously has some work to do. But if he's willing to do that work, I don't see why not.
Yeah, he has the prerequisite athleticism and size that you would need for that. Mm-hmm. It's just about nailing his technique down and being consistent because that's where we get in trouble with Jez, the consistency. Sometimes it's not there. I'll say this, man. David Ojabo and Odafe Owe both in practice today for the Ravens. Okay. They did sign Kyle Van Noy.
I saw that, and I'm mad at that actually because I like that player.
Yeah, me too. I've always liked Van Noy.
A lot of these players that I like always somehow end up in Baltimore, and it really pisses me off. And I'm just like, how? Every time, like even in the offseason, we'll rate, these guys should go here. The Browns should target these guys in free agency, and then it's usually the Ravens. Or hey, here's a draft guy the Browns should go after. Oh, Ravens got him. Sorry.
The year before last for me, it was Travis Jones out of Connecticut. I was like, that's the DT we need. That guy right there. Where'd he go? Baltimore. The year before they got Matabuke, that's the guy I was on. This last year it was Benton for me, and sure enough, he's a Steeler now. It's like that's how it works for me, man. If I fall in love with a prospect, they're going to the enemy.
So I might need you to not just fall in love with prospects anymore, buddy. and just give us a chance because
I'll sit this one out. I'll go back to evaluating wide receivers.
there we go. Because
right.
the Ravens can't draft them. Even though I do like
go ahead.
I do like Zay Flowers, so I don't want to.
Yeah, I like him.
But the Baltimore defense, they're not as good as they used to be. Obviously, they're not bad either, but they're not anything to like. I want to sort of compare it to Tennessee, but they don't have the pass rush Tennessee does. I think they have a better secondary than what Tennessee does. But I think
when they're healthy. When they're healthy, they definitely do. But Humphrey didn't practice today. Kyle Hamilton didn't practice today.
Excellent.
I mean, they're banged up, brother. They're as banged up as
so
you
this
can be,
is
really.
one of those games where Deshaun needs to take advantage of that. And like we said, he doesn't need to be 330 and 4 touchdowns. We don't need that. If he just moves the chains and puts them in position to score, hopefully touchdowns. But we now have a kicker that can seemingly kick us field goals when need be in it. He's perfect at home so far, which is where the next 2 games will be, part of 3 in a row. I'm excited to see what Deshaun can do against this defense. Because it's not a Ravens defense we're used to seeing. You know, they let the Colts hang around without Anthony Richardson, and they came back and ended up winning that game. And shout out Matt Gay because he did something not even Justin Tucker did. He made 5 of 5 field goals. That's not the stat. It's 4 from 50-plus yards. That's impressive, including the game-winning 53-yarder. So I picked him up in fantasy. You guys should too. Play him in your daily fantasy this week. Expert advice. But this is one of those games where Deshaun can take advantage of a not-so-great Baltimore defense and really, take that next step after last week. Because right now it's all we have. But if he regresses, then it's like, okay, we can't keep – like we said earlier, you have to – the bar's here. You have to get to at least the bar. I need you to jump up and touch that bar. And then if you can jump higher than that soon, great. And if you do that this week, even better.
For me, it comes down to with this defense, man, we need 5 scoring drives. Not all 5 have to be touchdowns. At least 2 need to be touchdowns. If you can score 23 points, teams are going to have a hard time beating this defense, man. If you can get to 23. I'd prefer 3 touchdowns.
Right.
But, that puts you in that, that 27 range. But I think that's the sweet spot, man. Lead 5 scoring drives. And without turnovers. If you get turnovers, I expect that goes up for me. You know what I mean? But just at base level, you're going to have – also, man, the Ravens, they're one of the toughest teams. They limit possessions. You don't get the ball a ton of times, man, because they'll drive you out. Now, are they going to be able to do it against the Browns? I doubt it. But I think that's the script. If you're lucky, if you get 10 possessions in a game, I need half of those to end in pay dirt one way or the other. Shout out to the real D-Hop, because for years I've been climbing the walls of anxiety when we go to line up for field goals and even extra points. This cat's put me at ease. I feel good about the situation when he lines up. I didn't have on my bingo card that he'd be nailing 50-yarders.
Hey.
In Cleveland, too. He nailed a 50-yarder in Cleveland and in Pittsburgh. Those are the hardest places to kick in the league.
Yeah.
So you feel good about that. So with this defense, man, points are a premium. And if the Browns can score 23, I suspect they will beat Baltimore.
I think that too, because like we said earlier, talking about Lamar, I don't think this offense has the firepower if Lamar is neutralized in some way. Like you said earlier, he's going to get his. He's Lamar. He's going to put them in position. But we saw against the Colts in key positions of that game, he did not look that great. He was 9 of 15 in the fourth quarter and overtime. They failed to move the ball in favorable field. It was near midfield. They could not get in. They got in somewhat of field goal range. I mean, I guess that is field goal range for Justin Tucker. It came up just short. So they have an inability to move the ball. And if the Browns can do what you just talked about the Ravens doing, forcing you to make plays, or you're going to not have many possessions, that's where I think it is too. Who has the most possessions and who limits them? And especially if they're quick 3 and outs, boom, boom, boom. Lamar goes 3 and out, or Deshaun goes 3 and out. That's going to be the one. But I think that favors the Browns, because I think they're more adept to do it on any given play, where the Ravens might have to design something special on certain plays. So it's going to be interesting. It's probably going to be an AFC North slugfest. So far we've seen 3 of them, because the Bengals game, they got killed against us, and then they were back and forth with the Ravens, and we were back and forth with the Steelers. So I think it's going to be one of those slugfest games, but I think it's one of those games where the Browns, I don't think they necessarily start off slow, but they don't maybe score the touchdowns early, but then as the game goes on, they get in the end zone and really pull away. And maybe that's just the bias, but that's just what we've seen so far. It's what we have to judge it off of, everything we've said. Yeah, so I'm going to get a final score prediction from you while we're here.
All right. Well, I got a full disclaimer, man. Me and you sat down and did the schedule prediction game before we started, and I had this game as a loss, if you remember.
Yep, both of us.
But that was before I saw this defense like in action. You know, before it was just a theory. Now we have proof of concept, so I got to roll with the information I have. I think they win this game 23-14.
Okay,
23-14. And that 14 might be generous, man. That 14 might just be generous.
So I'm glad you said that, though, about our predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I'm coming clean.
Because we both had 3-0 lose to Baltimore.
Yep.
And I don't know if you had them losing to Stanford. I think maybe we both did.
I was going into it, but then I felt good about it, and I gave them the win against San Fran and gave them a loss elsewhere, I think in Denver, which I don't know if that shit's happening now. I mean,
right.
That's a train wreck.
Things change weekly in the NFL, and we made those. I think it was August 30th is when the show was, right before the season started. So that's a while, and a lot of things have changed since then. And for the Browns, they have a defense that's changed. So I'm going to go. Let's see. You said 23-14. I'm going to go 27-13. I think they beat them by 2 touchdowns, and I just think this is the year that the Browns can finally somewhat conquer their boogeyman. It's going to be, the start of Halloween season. It's going to be the 31 days of October. It's going to be October 1st. Boom. Here we go. Let's take care of the boogeyman now, and then we'll meet him again. I think it's week 10 later in the season. And then
you're right.
We'll do it again. But yeah, I had it where the Ravens and Browns beat each other on the road. I don't think that's the case anymore, just because of what this defense can do, what they have done, and what they can do to neutralize Lamar. That's the name of the game, is neutralizing Lamar. I guess it's hard to have anyone else beat you but him, because he's the one who touches the ball every possession. But if he's struggling, maybe the running game is going to. I can't see. I keep saying these things out loud, and as I say them, I'm like, I just can't see that. No one's running on them right now, and until we see otherwise, that's what I'm going with. No one's running. I'm actually going to change this to 27-10.
I love it. There we go.
17-point win, a big statement game, and I don't think Deshaun needs to have one of those monster statement games. Last week was a statement game for him. Hey, I'm looking better. It's my offense now. There's no Chubb here. There's no switching back and forth. It's me. Let me go show why I'm the man. Boom. I think we get another one of those.
Boy, if that happens, the bye week's going to be lovely.
Oh, just imagine if he doesn't, though. Actually, I'm not imagining if he doesn't. I'm just imagining when he does. And usually that sets our hopes way too high. I don't care this time. Because of that defense and how good they are, Deshaun doesn't have to play monumental. In fact, if Jacoby Brissett had this defense last year, they would have had a way different record once once Deshaun Watson came back from his suspension. I'm just saying that because
tell Randy Gursey that.
I would love to tell Randy Gursey that. Shout out to him. He's coming on soon. I don't know when, but he's coming on. I just realized it is almost 8:00. That means Faithful Dog Podcast is coming up. Jack, Zach, Tyler, they're going to have Victory Wednesday for you, and then move on to week 4, as this is their first time this week on the show or on the network. And then you have Dog Chug 10. I'll be coming on at some point. I might do it from my phone at the bar. I don't know, because I'm going to play darts here shortly. I'm going to do a Victory Chug. Make sure to check that out, 10 p.m. the Dog Chug. Casey, go ahead and plug any and everything you want to.
Man, I got Keys to Victory will drop tomorrow. And then I have matchups to watch the day after that. And then pregame, 11 o'clock, Network 216. I'll be part of that crew. And hopefully we get a hell of a postgame after. You know what I mean? So that's as far as the futures I'm thinking is till Sunday.
That's fantastic thinking, and I love it. Dog Pound Daily, that's where you can find him. You can also find me at Dog Pound Daily. I don't know if I have any more coming. I have one more coming out this week, and it will depend on how the rest of the week goes to see, because the weekend will get busy for me. But Dog Pound Daily at Network_216. Make sure to check us out. Faithful Dogs Podcast is coming up here momentarily, right after us. At KingWord15, follow me there. At Homage, all caps for the Homage. Go see them. Tell them we sent you. Find one of our links. Get hooked up. Get some dope gear just like this. That's Casey. I'm Eddie. Until next week, go Browns.